this. The Constitutional Court is expected to hear arguments from those involved in the SASSA saga. The Post Office will give reasons why it should be allowed to distribute social grants, while CPS has indicated that if no deal is inked by the end of today, it won't be able to pay grant recipients on the 1st of April. Our specialist reporter Karen Morn is at the Constitutional Court and she joins us live now for an update. Now, Karen, millions of South Africans are expecting a payout in less than 3 weeks from now. Set the scene as to what we can expect to hear in court today.
Well, it's exactly that kind of line of thinking that compelled Black Sash, a very well-known civil rights organizations with roots deep back into the anti-apartheid movement, to go to this court to compel SASSA and the Department of Social Development, which oversees it, to conclude an interim or some kind of deal with Cash Paymaster Services, as Cash Paymaster Services, according to what we've been understanding from SASSA, is the only entity at this stage equipped on their version to take over the cash, to continue with the cash payments to social grant recipients. Now, what Black Sash essentially did was they went to court and said, please oversee this deal. We saw Freedom Under Law also getting involved and saying that it would want the court to ensure that there was a cap put on the kind of money that CPS could demand for continuing with social grant payments, given that, according even to MPs in Parliament yesterday, a gun is being held to the head of the nation about the possibility of grants not being paid, and therefore CPS in a very powerful position. Of course, we know that SASSA and the Minister have said they completely agree with what Black Sash has asked for, but they are unhappy about this request that the court supervise the nuts and bolts of any future deal. They're saying that they would prefer it if the Auditor General or Public Protector was involved in overseeing not just this deal, but a future competitive bidding process that will bring in a new service provider to take over social grants payments.
For the sake of our viewers, perhaps let's remind them who all will be represented in court today and what we can expect to hear from them.
Well, we know, the big question at the moment, Dudu, is this deal was put on the table very much at the last minute by government, saying we will agree with the relief being sought by Black Sash and Freedom Under Law. Black Sash saying we want the court to compel a resolution of this matter. We want a deal to be struck with Cash Paymaster Services. We want the court, which was overseeing, this whole issue of social grants payments from 2013, when, of course, pending a new person being put in. The court walked away from that supervisory role in November 2015 in the light of the fact that SASSA came to the court and said, we have everything under control. You can walk away from this, it's fine. Black Sash now saying the court must take over that supervisory role in terms of what it was doing before. It's also government also offering in its papers to report back to the court about the progress in the resolution of this particular matter. Freedom Under Law will argue today that essentially they believe that a cap should be placed on the amount of money that Cash Paymaster Services can claim. Cash Paymaster Services has said it agrees with the relief being sought by Black Sash, particularly in line of the provision of personal information of social grants recipients to other third parties. It said it's never done that it will act in a reasonable way in terms of the negotiation of any future deal. The real question is this question of, will the court supervise this deal? Will the court be happy with the Auditor General or the Public Protector supervising this deal? And in line of the fact that CPS is now publicly stating that unless a resolution or a deal is reached today, social grants, there's a real danger that they won't be paid on the 1st of April. what kind of emergency order could we see this court granting in such extraordinary circumstances? More worryingly for SASSA and the Department of Social Development, how are they going to explain away those very thorny questions posed to them about the court, about when they knew about this impending crisis and why they didn't go to the court and inform it about it?
You alluded to it. Many people in the country are worried come 1st of April what will happen. But if the Minister of Social Development, with what she's telling us, if there's anything to go by, saying that payments will be made and that the media is creating a storm in a teacup and blaming prophets of doom for creating this worry. Karen, perhaps correct me if I'm wrong, but South Africa has never seen something of this nature before. So give us a sense of how this will play out in court. Is this something that we can expect to have a sitting in one day, also given the urgency of the situation, or is this going to play out for quite some time?
Well, the court does have an ability to issue directions about the further progress of this case. Now, remember, of course, the court asking a number of pointed questions about the so-called CPS deal, which Social Development and SASSA say had not actually been concluded. We know the ministerial task team saying that any such deal would be illegal. They scrapped it. They're now seeking a deviation from Treasury that they believe will make any future deal with CPS, in fact, legal. But the court really asking, did government at any stage regard this potential new deal with CPS as legal? They've also asked the court in a very pointed way when SASSA became aware that it would not be able to take over the provision of social grant payments to some 10 million people, 17 million grants in total, Dudu. And of course, while the SASSA had originally told the court that it only really fully knew about the crisis in October last year, it's now admitted, after it emerged that a legal opinion had been sought in May, that in fact there was an awareness of this crisis in April. So the difficulty for the minister and for SASSA is, even if she did know, according to them, only in October, why then did SASSA and the minister ignore very specific legal advice from two extremely respected senior counsels, which said, you need to go to the court, you need to tell them what's happened, you need to make them aware of the fact that the promises that you made them about the things that you were able to do to ensure that social grants would be paid, you haven't met those promises. And you need to seek the court's guidance so that, this can be dealt with in a responsible and accountable manner. And this is what has led to this accusation, not just from opposition parties, but indeed, in a more kind of subtle form from Treasury, which has described the minister as orchestrating a self-created crisis. And up until now, we really have no explanation as to why that was. Wiseman Magasela saying in an affidavit that, there was no choice or no decision by anyone within SASSA not to tell the court, but unable to explain why the court wasn't told. And you can understand that, the justices in this cause, including Chief Justice Mogoeng, I don't think is going to let that issue go when this court starts sitting at 10 o'clock this morning.
Definitely not, and that's where we leave it with our specialist reporter live to us from the Constitutional Court, where it's expected to hear arguments from those involved in the SASSA saga. Now,